What's up, hockey lovers? Welcome to the inaugural episode of Pens and Pucks. We got a lot of topics that we're going to be going over here, but first, with the introductions, my name, of course, as you can see above me, is Jordan. You can find me on Twitter at _real_reason. I also run some Dolphin stuff, but hockey's always been a passion of mine, and I'm joined by my co-host and my brother, my literal brother, Nick. How are you doing today, sir?
Good, buddy. Let's get this show on the road here.
Before we do, though, my friend, I want you to lay out a bit of, because people who have watched me know I played rep, not much more than that, but I want you to lay out a little bit of your experience and a bit of your hockey resume so people can kind of understand what they're dealing with here.
Are we talking beer league resume or are we talking
this guy?
All right. Played AAA throughout my minor hockey career, and definitely been coaching after that for about 20 years. A little bit more than 20 years, so that makes me a little old, I guess. Older than you for sure. And then did some scouting and some training with a couple of teams. And currently right now I'm part of one team that I'm an assistant coach for. So a lot of experience watching players playing and definitely developing players.
Yep. And guys, just a little brief overview. What we're going to be doing weekly is about 2 1-hour podcasts. Also throughout the week, we're going to be doing a 10 to 15 minute breakdown of some plays we saw that week or the week before, just to further educate our viewers and our subscribers. And shout out to YouTube for messing with our subscriber count. But let's hop right into it, because I mean, at least the talk in Pittsburgh land right now is about the new regime with Brian Burke and Ron Hextall being brought on board not too long ago. And I mean, thank God JR, Jim Rutherford, is out. It's about time. He probably, he overextended his stay by about since after
3 years.
After the cup. Yeah, so we're there. Yeah. So and a crazy thing is Hextall's father and Rutherford were actually teammates in Pittsburgh during Ron Hextall's childhood. So that's kind of crazy. But Nick, as you look at, Brian Burke being brought in, because Burke actually consulted with Lemieux and David Morehouse, during the general manager search. And then the talk eventually turned into Burke's own interest in joining the organization. When you look at, I know because the Leaf fans, they have some bad history, but Canuck fans love the guy. When you look at Brian Burke, let's start with Brian Burke before we get to Hextall. Yeah. When you look at Brian Burke, what do you think he brings to this organization? And how locked in do you think he is on making us a contender right away? And do you think he can do it?
Well, I definitely think that I think it was a knee-jerk reaction by the Penguins. I would have loved to see them play out the year. It's a short season, 56 games. Revisit what they have to do in the off season and basically go over the interview process a little more. Look at different candidates, maybe Chris Drury, McFarland from the Avalanche. In terms of bringing Burke on board, like you said, Jordan, he's had success in Anaheim with the Stanley Cup back in 07 there with Getzlaf and Perry. Those were his major draft picks back then. In Vancouver, again, he had some success. His record, regular season record, was 219 wins, 181 losses, 68 ties. In terms of bringing a different set of eyes, I think Pittsburgh really, and again, Penguins fans out there, I don't want to say fluff, but we've been a little fluffy and soft for the last few years, and I think having a new set of eyes definitely is going to help us out. I know he brings that word truculence to the table a lot, but I definitely think that it will help us in the long run with Hextall, with Burke, couple set of eyes, instead of just having the one set like Jim Rutherford had. I think it definitely is going to help out with the franchise. In terms of this year, couple moves, we'll get to the playoffs hopefully, but I think it's going to be a rebuild or a soft rebuild going forward.
And, you mentioned his tenure in Anaheim, and he said it himself. He was this close to Perry being Sid. right? And
Bobby Ryan.
oh yeah, sorry, Bobby Ryan.
Yeah,
What am I
yeah,
on right now?
yeah.
I gotta ask you this though.
Mhm.
Because just a little side thing before we get into Hextall. There's
Yeah.
been a lot of talk about, and Crosby came out and kind of killed the rumors about saying he wants to finish his career in Pittsburgh. When you look at Burke, he's no nonsense individual. Do you think if you had to make a list of guys who are safe right now, would Sidney Crosby be the only one on that list for you?
100%. I think Sid's the only guy that's untouchable. They're using that word taxi squad this year, and those are the guys that are sort of the black aces that they usually run throughout the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I would put Gino and Letang in the taxi and drive them to the airport. Right now. But yes, I think Sid is the only untouchable. I would probably put Getzel in there as well. Again, we need to look at youth. We need to build the system. We need to build the team more younger. But I would say Sid is the only untouchable.
Mm-hmm. All right. So talking about, getting in that taxi and driving them off.
Yeah.
I mean, that rate and that fare is going to have to be paid by Ron Hextall, the new GM. Talk a little bit about what you think of how he performed in the same role when he was with Philadelphia, and talk about what you think and what your hopes are that he's going to bring to this franchise in that role.
I think the Penguin fans are going to need patience with Ron. I think, he did build Philly to what they are today. A lot of good draft picks, Gostisbehere, Konecny, Provorov, Hart, Leighton, Haig, Stanheim. A lot of good prospects there. But it's a rebuild. He built around Giroux and Voracek. But they're still not. I still don't think they're a Stanley Cup contender. They'll make the playoffs. They'll make some noise, but they're still not there. For Penguins fans, they got to be patient. I don't think Hextall is a GM that's going to come in like JR did, make those big moves, trading our draft picks, trading our youth, and building right now. I think it's going to be a 2 or 3 year project.
So you talked about, again, sticking with Gino and Letang right now. I mean, we've talked privately about their value. Do you think, and it's something where you don't think they have really high value right now, do you think Hextall would still be willing to move those pieces? If their value isn't high, but even if you can get prospects or picks back, and B, the biggest question of all, would management in terms of Mario and etc. green light that?
Yeah, I think with Malkin, Mario wants to see him retire as a Penguin. I think that goes back to when the Penguins traded Jagger, back in the 90s. Definitely that was a sad day for Penguin history, but it was all about financials back then. I'm sure Mario would like to see Sid and Malkin finish in a Penguins uniform. In regards to Letang, I think they're open to the trade, and I definitely think 1,000%. And you'll hear me a lot of times on this podcast. 1,000%, I'll use it. That one of the reasons why Jim Rutherford resigned was he probably wanted to dangle Malkin and Letang out there. I really do. There was reports from the Athletic, different outlets in Pittsburgh that's not the case, but I really think that's the case. I think Lemieux kiboshed the idea of Malkin getting traded, and I think JR was on a different page. He knew that there had to be something big to happen this season to get them over the hump.
Mm-hmm. And we could only imagine the return JR would have tried to got. I mean, would have been a bag of pucks, some Nathan hot dogs, and and a new pair of skates, brother.
Yeah. Steel City beer for sure.
All right, so let's get into the next topic here, because we're gonna circle back to the Penguins a few times.
Sure.
And this is a big one because right now they're sitting at 11-2-2. They're at the top of their division right now. I gotta ask you the question because I deal with a lot of Miami sports fans, and I was telling them before the season, good luck with that squad. And I'm eating a little crow right now, but I mean, you look at the schedule they have. No wonder they're 11-2-2. So I got to ask you the question: right? They're 15 games into their 56 game season.
Right.
Are the Florida Panthers for real in your eyes?
I think they're for real in that division. Again, I think this year is a little different. The divisions were relined. There's some softer divisions. You have in the Panthers division, you have, Nashville, you have the Red Wings that you can beat up every day. And again, going back to last night's game, they won 7-2. I believe it was 5-1 after the first period in that game. But again, it's the luck of the draw. They got a good division in terms of winning points every night. The Hornquist trade, unfortunately for Penguins fans, is really kicking us right now. He's on fire. He's got 8 goals, 7 assists. He got 15 points the first few games here, and you have Huberdeau that's really on pace to have a really, really good season in a short season.
Yeah, he already has 13 points, right?
22 points right now. He's 22 points.
13 goals I saw. What does he have right now?
He's got 7 goals and 15 assists, I believe. And he's tied in 7th in points in terms of NHL leaders. So he is on fire. Yeah, Burke.
Oh yeah, he had 2 assists last night. My bad. That's where got him up to 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have Barkov right now with 18 points. He's tied in 12th right now in the league. And then they're getting solid goaltending.
You're not going to name Patrick Hornquist, bro? He had 2 goals yesterday.
I said Hornquist has 15 points, right? So,
jeez.
But that's a black eye on Penguins fans right now, right? Because we have Mighty Mike running the show in the back end for us.
Mighty Mike,
right?
Oh my God. Right? Oh, that guy needs to put his skates down and open up a Jersey Mike's. Okay, right, that's what he needs to do.
Yeah, a little shout out to my boy Lucas too, in terms of the spectator savior as well, right on the 4th line and a plug that he is.
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you this one. Here's the big question: Is there a resurfacing of rats in the future for the NHL?
Yeah, the nightmare of 1996, right? We were just talking about that offline here, off air. They knocked out our Penguins in the conference finals to go against the Avalanche, and the Avalanche won the cup there. But yeah, the Rats used to be thrown on the ice during that cup run. A couple names you were saying that were on that team, coached by Doug MacLean. I love Doug MacLean. I think he's great broadcaster, good coach, good GM. But definitely that team was a thorn in our side. I think they had Beezer in that. Van Beesbroek
was in that.
Yeah. So they had Brian Skrudlin. They had Dave Lowry, which is the assistant coach now for the Jets. He was all over Mario that whole series, driving him crazy. And then when they used to score, the Rats used to come down. I remember Beezer used to, I think it was Tommy Brasso for us at the time. They have to sometimes go in the net there because the Rats were coming from the stands. It's pretty crazy.
What do you think about the goaltending situation with all that money they gave Bobrovsky? Is he a guy you think that's gonna, take him to the promised land potentially?
I don't think so. I don't think he's a legitimate number one for what he's getting paid. I believe he's getting paid over $10 million. I think it is. You might want to check that. But over $10 million, and it looks like the new kid on the block, Dreger. There, he's 6-1 this year, and he's got a goals against over 900. Save percentage and a goals against around 2.25 a game. So he's on a good run. He played last night. They have decent goaltending. Again, Bobrovsky, not really a fan. Upstairs all day.
Yeah, he's got like an 8.84 save percentage too, right?
Right.
3.33 goals against. Yeah.
Similar like our stellar goaltending, Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith. Right?
Oh, I thought he was untouchable, bro. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. So tonight is a big night. I believe he's only going to be the 10th player active to hit 1,000 games. Sidney Crosby is about to play his 1,000th game tonight when we face the Islanders. It's crazy because you go back, I remember the draft year, at the time I remember my job and a bunch of the guys were going home after the work day and they were all gambling amongst each other as who was going to win the lottery that year. Right. And then we ended up pulling the ball, much to Brian Burke's dismay. And, then the draft itself in that first year, him playing on the line, playing left wing with Mario. If you go from there, and then his second year took us playoff appearance, right? And then it was only up from there. Can you believe we're already sitting here at 1,000 games in Sidney Crosby's career? And think if he didn't get injured with that concussion.
Right. I think he'd be at, close to, he's missed about 120 games, I think, altogether around there. So he would already surpassed the 1,000 game mark. But just looking at his numbers over the last 999 games, 468 goals, 808 assists, 1,276 points.
Gotta love it,
baby. In the last 15 years or so, 3 Stanley Cups, just definitely a gamer. Ron Hextall described him the other day as a superstar grinder. And when I look at Sidney, I don't compare him to Mario and Wayne and all those guys. I think he's definitely a different type of player. He is an A1 Peter Forsberg. He plays below the dots every game. He grinds it out. He has great edge work. He has a nose for the net. He works on his face-offs. The one thing that
some of the most ridiculous hand-eye coordination of any sport I've ever seen.
Right. And I think with Sid is that, and this, we've talked about this a lot of times when we've ventured down to Pittsburgh for our playoff runs and Stanley Cup games we've seen. Mm-hmm. If there's a facet of the game that he's struggling with, he'll work at it.
Yeah.
If it's face-offs, if it's a shot, if it's deflections, like you said, eye-hand coordination, the guy's incredible. That's one of the things. You have like Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these guys. When everybody's sleeping, they're working, and that's the difference between the superstars.
I mean, you go back, and just a little brief history, guys. Me and my brother were there, and we saw his first multi-point performance in the Stanley Cup game, Game 2, 2008 Finals against the Detroit Red Wings.
Right.
Sorry, Game 3. My bad. I apologize. Right now, 16 years in, he's averaging 1.277 points per game. It's currently 7th best. And Bobby Orr only averaged 1.393. I mean, it's still possible he's going to get up there. I know Connor McDavid right now is sitting at about 1.354. But I'll go on record and I'll say it. This is the best 200-foot player I've ever seen.
And I agree totally with you. I think that's what's outstanding with Sid. He plays all 3 zones, cleans up his end, and again, being a centerman, it's the toughest position in the sport because you got to be the third D out there. You got to be the helping out your D in the corners, making sure that puck's getting out. Definitely, Sid's game from his goal line to the opponent's goal line has been his bread and butter all throughout his career.
See, you hear that, Gino? You can't be floating around, bud. Yeah. And you talked about like the fact that he was always working at getting better. Don't you? And I know you remember this because I mean, I do. Early in his career, remember how hard he worked at getting better in the face-off circle?
Right. And again, it goes back to understanding where he's struggling. A guy like Sid, especially with the technology nowadays, he's always on the bench looking at the iPad, right? Looking at how the defense playing on the opponent's side, looking at different things they're doing on the PK, PP, how they're breaking out, how they're stifling them, coming up the neutral zone. He is a student of the game for sure.
Yeah, and I'll never F you, David Steckel, for taking that season away from us because the points he was putting up that year before that hit, man, Jesus, the guy, what was he like? I think he already had over 60 points at that point, and we were at the 41 game mark. Yeah. We got robbed of a special season that year, man.
It was insane. Even Kunitz and our boy number 9, Pascal Dupuis, was looking like the Rocket Richard out there with Sid, right?
Yeah.
Everything he was touching was going in the net. And again, going back to Crosby, if you look at, Gretzky and Mario too as well, in the beginning of his career with more Mario, he really didn't have those elite wingers. And it seems with Sid, he's never had that elite winger. Getzel right now, he's an upcoming star.
Yeah, the Hossa
right?
for like half a season.
Exactly right. And we were on that bandwagon there with Hossa too.
Buddy, they were so good together.
Right.
And I'm still mad he went to Chicago because we would have won more than 2 cups in that run if they would have locked in Hossa.
Yeah, I hate to correct you there, but he went to Detroit, right?
Oh, sorry, Detroit. Thank Chicago.
Right.
My bad.
Yeah, and
and then we beat his ass.
Exactly.
And Ty Conklin got the deal too. How'd you like that?
Right. And we were.
Bro,
we were
you remember when we were sitting there chirping Ty Conklin because that's where the goalies were and stuff?
Yeah.
We were sitting back in the old igloo. We were just sitting there chirping that guy. That was beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. We were on our way to Pittsburgh, and we had seats probably because in 08 we were in the igloo, and I think our heads were touching the ceiling there for that game, right?
We were at the front of the top. We were at like the front of the top. But that place rumbled, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was rocking. And then in 09,
we were 6 rows from the glass.
Yeah, we got the call there from the scalper.
Right? Meeting him in the apartment, in the hotel room.
Right, and I looked at you, and I think I almost swerved off the road because you're like 6 rows up, and you're like, yeah, let's go. It was pretty crazy, insane. And then we met Elliot Friedman
in the elevator,
the fridge man, and
the story about his buddy who got canned for going to the Devils Stanley Cup game. Remember?
Right. I think you were chirping Mackenzie and Duffy when they were doing live shows. It was
bro. Remember you walked up to Mackenzie and you tried to make conversation. You wanted nothing to do with that, and then Duffy comes in and saves them. Oh my god!
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I think the nicest guy we met out of the TSN and the hockey media was when me and you were walking after lunch and we saw Michael Landsberg.
Yeah.
He was the nicest one. The guy's shorter than an Oompa Loompa, but he was like the nicest out of all of them, right?
Yeah. He was, he was asking us a lot of different hockey questions where we're from. As soon as he found out we were from, the 6, it was definitely, it was different, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's crazy because, we've seen them at the console, and we've seen them at the igloo, and the console just does not rumble like the igloo does, man. I don't know whether it's because it's just such an old building and the thing was ready to collapse, but give me the arena where Jean-Claude Van Damme filmed Sudden Death every day of the week, buddy.
Any day.
Any day of the week.
And Brooks Orpik made that movie part 2 on that one shift when we were there when he was nailing everything in sight, if you remember that.
Yeah, wasn't that hey.
Well, game 3 when
remember we used to tell everyone we were there for the shift where he got paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because then he got his extension. But he laid out he laid out all 5 guys and then one of them an extra time in like one shift. And me and you were sitting there like, Jesus. And shout out to Catherine Tappan because she's always fun to look at when we go down for the game, huh? Man. And all the jabronis out there like saying nonsense to her. It's crazy, man.
Right, yeah.
But man, it's just it's crazy to reflect back and we're already at 1,000. Like man, we're old.
Just before we end that is looking at the new regime like we talked about, and Sid's desire. He said it yesterday that he wants to finish his career in Pittsburgh, which for me that was awesome. I had a smile on my face as soon as I read that. But we definitely need to get him one more cup, and that's going to be up to the ownership and the management to help.
So I got 2 things based off of what you just said.
Yeah.
One, do you think we're going to get him another cup? And actually, let's start with that. Do you think do you think Crosby is going to see another Stanley Cup in his lifetime?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot here.
Well, it's a projection, right? But like, I'm basically asking you, do you think Burke and Hextall are going to do enough over the next 2 years to put him in a position to vie for a Stanley Cup? That'd probably be the better question, I guess.
I think with Burke, he realizes, and Hextall, Mario as well, Ron Burkle, Sid's getting up there in age. His desire
34, right? He's going to be 34 this year.
his desire to win and be competitive. I think one more cup is in the horizon in the next 3 years. I think that we got to fix our goaltending, and with our other podcasts coming up, we're going to go over rosters and all that fun stuff, break it down. But definitely, I think with a couple of swift moves, number one in goaltending, the back end, I do think we need truculence. So I do see one more cup for Sid.
And I guess my next question, based off of all that, would be: is we're sitting at 1,000. How many more years do you think he has left in that body? Because he's also a workout freak. And I mean,
right.
When we go back to me and you going back in the Stanley Cup in 2009, we went down there with Caputi, right? And he was the first, and we were sitting there eating our sandwiches, listening to this guy, and he was saying Sid's the first one on the rink before all the coaches, before anyone, and he's the last one off the rink. So the work ethic is there. How much longer do you think, through his work, that he can play at a high elite level?
I think Sid's going to be the type of guy that he'll play till about 39, 40. His body's in really good shape. He takes care of it. He's at the gym. He's working out. And the thing people forget about Sid is that he's missed quite a few number of games. And not only, with his neck issues and, somewhat concussion issues, his rest of his body's been allowed to rest. His legs, shoulders, and all that stuff. Even when he got the puck in the mouth there a few years back, again, that was more of it's a jaw injury, not the body. And so I think his body, even though he's playing 1,000 games, I think his body's ready to play a lot more.
Mm-hmm. All right. So a marquee matchup tonight is the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs, they come in second in the NHL, averaging about 3.72 goals a game. Montreal's tied for fifth, averaging about 3.47. But Montreal is number one in shots on goal. They average about 34.1, while Toronto's 22nd. They're averaging about 29.4. But here's where it gets real nice. The Toronto Maple Leafs have the number one power play in the NHL right now. 34.6% is what they're converting at, while Montreal is only converting at about a 20.8 clip. Okay, so and another big difference between these guys is, the Maple Leafs are number 5 in the NHL right now in the faceoff circle, and Montreal's 26th. So, and then when you look at goals allowed, Montreal's 6th in terms of allowing 2.53 goals, and Toronto, they're 10th, allowing 2.67. And their penalty kills, they're both tied at 14% at about 80%. They're both tied at 14 with about 80%. Frederik Andersen right now, he's 10-3-2, 2.67 goals against average, 0.905 save percentage, while Carey Price is 5-2-2, 2.64 goals against, and a 0.901 save percentage right now. The Maple Leafs are 13-3-2. Montreal is 9-4-2. Toronto's obviously first in the North. Montreal's fourth. What do you think about this game tonight? Because obviously the Toronto Montreal rivalry for hockey fans goes all the way back until the original 6. Right. How big of a game do you think this is for both teams tonight? And give me a prediction on who you think is going to come out on top.
Well, when I look at the Leafs, again, if you look at their last 8 games, 6 of them have been played against Vancouver and Ottawa. Okay, so really falsified numbers there. Vancouver has taken a step behind from the bubble last summer in the playoffs, and then Ottawa's in that rebuild stage, young team. But I definitely think, Austin Matthews is right now probably, besides Connor McDavid, top 3 player in the league. He's taken it to another level the first 17 games. He's had 16 goals in 17 games. He's
9 assists as well.
Right. Definitely playing like a beast. He looks stronger out there. I know that listening to interviews or reading some articles about Matthews before the season is he trimmed down. He lost some weight. So he has gotten a little bit faster out there, and also a little bit more leaner. So he can be definitely stronger on the puck. If you look at his two-way game, And that's been one of his, I guess, downsides the last few years or since he's come into the league. He doesn't really, work hard as much as he does in the offensive zone, but that seems to be changing, which is a good thing for Leaf fans out there in Leaf Nation. Who do I think is going to win tonight? I think Toronto's going to win. I think they're flying high. They're top six with Tavares scoring the other night, Nylander getting on the board. I think Montreal is sort of one of those teams that looks good on the outside, but when you start really dissecting their roster, they're more of a, I would say, 2-3 team right now. They're fourth in the North right now with 20 points, 9-4-2, and then you got Toronto on a roll at 13-3-2. Edmonton has been playing well. They've creeped up into second place in the North as well as Winnipeg. So I think Montreal has to start the engines going tonight. They've struggled a little bit over the last few games, but I'm picking Toronto tonight.
My next question for you is, who okayed that mustache, bro?
On Austin Matthews?
Oh,
yeah, that is one ugly thing, right? If he thinks the ladies like that, there's going to be an empty seat beside him every night.
I don't know, bro. He looks like a gay 70s porn star. I'm not putting anything out there, but you know what I mean? My wife looks at him and she thinks he looks like he looks like a rapist or a serial killer every time she looks at him. It's like, what is that thing on his face?
Well, we got to be nice. We got to be nice because
looks like he was standing under a tree and a caterpillar fell on his top lip and got stuck, bro.
I think, listen, if I'm coaching Austin Matthews, I would say, listen, you can grow whatever you want. If you're playing like that,
yeah,
by all means, man. Grow wherever you want, whenever you want, how you want it. Just keep on sniping.
Now that you've had some hindsight, are you a fan of the Tavares signing for them?
I love JT. I think he's a great player. I think I'm a big fan of two-way hockey players. I think you get a lot out of two-way hockey players. They definitely bring a lot to the table. For his contract, though, no. I think it really puts the handcuffs on the Leafs to have a better backup goaltender and definitely beef up the bottom six and maybe get another D in the top five.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so getting on to our final topic right now. Will the Penguins be upgrading their goaltending situation? We touched on DeSmith and Jarry a little bit there. And there's two names that are out there right now. And let's start off with the first one because it's a familiar one. Marc-Andre Fleury. He's been playing absolutely lights out for the Vegas Golden Knights so far this season. He started 9 games. He's 7-2-0. He's got a goals against of 1.56 and a save percentage of 0.937. He's also got 2 shutouts. And he's doing this at age 36 right now. Now we know was one of the most beloved players, not only in the locker room, but in Pittsburgh Penguins history. And we kind of got bit in the ass over the whole Matt Murray thing. I mean, me and you knew the glove was already a serious issue, and it just got worse and worse, and it's looking worse and worse in Ottawa for Matt Murray right now. So thank God we got out of that. As bad as Jarry is, he ain't playing like Murray right now.
Right.
So, do you think Marc-Andre Fleury is a candidate to be moved at the goal line at the deadline, or they're going to ride both guys, him and Leonard, or do you think this is more of an off season heading into his 37th year type of move?
I think Vegas is going to ride them both in the playoffs this year. I go back to a lot of conversations I've had with a lot of hockey people on a daily basis about a number of different topics, but Marc-Andre Fleury is one of those topics where we were sad to see him go, for sure. I think that they won't be getting him at the trade deadline. They're going to go for a run, Vegas. They want to win that cup. It's a short year. They beefed up the blue line with the signing of Peter Angelo. Vegas, for an expansion team, literally they're built better than we are as the Penguins right now. They have a better team from their top 6 to their bottom 6 and their 6D and their goaltending. Am I a fan of Robin Leonard? He hasn't won anything, but you do have a winner with Marc-Andre Fleury, the Flower. And I remember meeting Marc-Andre Fleury in 2003, his rookie year. He was doing a signing session, and I went to go see him. I got a jersey signed and met him. He actually asked me a few questions where I was from. Nicest guy, always smiling. I think if this move's going to happen, it's going to happen in the off season.
And I mean, I remember that rookie year. What was it? His first or second game where he faced over 50 shots.
Right.
He got lit up.
Yeah, those bright yellow pads.
Yeah, and he only let in, like, if I remember correctly, 1 or 2.
Right. Yeah.
And he had like 51 or 52 shots against. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
And here's a net follow-up question on Fleury.
Yeah.
Next year is going to be 37. What are you giving up for a 37-year-old goalie?
That all depends. Again, with Hextall's mindset, I don't see him giving up youth. We talked about this the other day. The closet's not full. The bucket's not full of youth prospects for the Penguins right now. We have Poulin and we have Leger that are up and coming, but still somewhat, I don't know, undecided on Poulin. He didn't make the World Junior Canada team this year. I was hoping he would, so we get more of a look at him. But I think it all depends what Hexie wants to do here. If you're going to have to give up something to get Marc-Andre Fleury. Now, if Vegas is in cap issues, then definitely it might not be as high. But there's another goalie we've talked about too that's out there.
We'll get into him right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. John Gibson, only age 27 right now. One of the best American-born goalies right now in the league. His record isn't anything special. 3 overtime losses, 6 losses, and 5 wins. But he still managed to put up a 2.38 goals against average behind that team and a save percentage of 0.919, as well as 3 shutouts. This is a guy who he's had a pretty stellar career when he missed really the good Anaheim. All the guys were getting old by the time he came around. They were getting over the hill. John Gibson, this is an intriguing name for the goaltending situation, not only because of the homeborn tie that you mentioned, but when you look at him, he's super uber talented. Next to Jonathan Quick, like easily one of my favorite non-Pittsburgh favorite goalies in the league in the past 5-6 years, for me at least, to watch. Is it realistic? Because we have a history of making deals with Anaheim. Now the Burke connection to Anaheim is there too. And B, what do you think it would take to land a player of that caliber over here? Would a guy like Chris Letang maybe have to be a centerpiece in that deal so you can kind of shed that cap as well too in the move?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a high piece we're going to have to trade for Gibson. If you look at Gibson's numbers, he's got a save percentage of .919. That's one of the things I really, really look at when I'm looking at goaltending is their save percentage. Chris Letang, he's got the no move clause. Is it one of his so many teams? I think he has. It's maybe 11 or 12 no move clause there to pick one of the teams he can get traded to. I think Letang would definitely be something that Anaheim would look at. But that being said, they do have a younger team, so maybe a Marcus Pettersson going back to Anaheim and freeing up some cap space for us at 4.5, I think he makes. Even maybe a guy like Dumo that's coming back into the lineup soon, making over 4. I think there could be a chance there. In terms of draft picks, we don't have any. So
thanks, JR.
Yeah. So, but again, you know what? There's been a lot of bashing with JR and whatnot, but his mindset back in 2016 and 2017 was to win Stanley Cups, and he brought that to the table. He did a fantastic job. Not all of his trades since then have worked out for Pittsburgh, but what he did those 2 years was awesome. We wouldn't have the 2 cups without his mindset for sure. Going back to Gibson, Jordan, I think that this is something that definitely Burke and Hexie can pull off before the end of the season. If Letang is in the mix and he wants to go out to sunny California and Anaheim, wear shorts and tank tops to the rink and flip flops and slides, whatever you want to call them, I think definitely that might be a good move for for Chris. I think it's a franchise that's not really watched. It's West Coast, games are at 10:30. He can sort of hide there, not be really asked as many questions in the Mecca city like Pittsburgh.
What if
But
let me ask you this: what if
yeah.
Gino is willing to go there?
I think the only place Gino's willing to go, Jordan, is Florida, and it's because his wife is from Florida. Actually, I think that's been said that his wife and kid, his son, are in Florida. That's where they're living right now, and I think Gino's missing his family. I think that's definitely an issue with him too. But I don't see Malkin going to Anaheim. I know there was talk years back. We talked about this and rumors or whatnot of him going to LA. But I don't think LA's going in that direction right now. They're in that rebuild as well. They have some couple big guys with some cap issues that they're looking to get rid of in LA. So I'm not sure they want to tag on to Malkin's ride right now. I would say the only, like I said, Dumo, Patterson, and I would, maybe you're trading Jari in that trade.
Not like you're losing much.
Not well. You bring in Gibson and DeSmith as the backup. I'm a fan of DeSmith. I think he's a really solid backup. I think you can get 20, 25 games out of him, maybe even 30 with a regular 82-game season. But definitely Jari is concerning to me. I know that, we beat the Islanders the other night, probably his best game of the year. But if you just look at his positioning, to me, I close my eyes every time a puck comes to the net because he seems that he loses his creases a lot.
Yeah, I think I told you I saw a stat. He's saved 78 of his last 82 shots against. So, right. I mean, that's good to see, but you got to start asking yourself the question, are we getting into the stages of it's too little too late? We know what we have and we got to move off of it right now. So I got to ask you, what are you more willing to do? Pay a little bit more of I don't want to say a little, but pay more of a premium for a guy like Gibson or wait for the offseason, trade for a goaltender who's heading into his 37th birth year, who might also come on the cheap because then they don't got to put one of those two guys up for Seattle.
I think, it'd be a great story. It's almost like a movie. The Flower comes back to Pittsburgh. Everybody loves him. Teammates love him. But if I'm Hextall, I'm going after Gibson. I think if you want to go on a run and you think that window's still open for Sid, and maybe even he keeps the core, I'm not sure. Gibson's your guy. Fleury would be your guy for maybe one more year. But Gibson's your guy for, I believe he's only 27 years old, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think Gibson's your guy to go for that soft rebuild and maybe have that 3 or 4 year window left with Sid.
All right. So we kind of touched on it, and I've just added this to the topics. I'm going to put it up here right now because we've kind of touched on Malkin and Letang, and this begs the question because we know, one of the complaints me and you had back during the Bilesma's days is it started turning into a freaking clubhouse back there. It was buddies before business, all right? And every sport is a business, and you're in the business of winning, not making friends. If you want to make friends along the way of winning, that's fine and dandy. That's sunshine and lollipops. But at the end of the day, it's about how many rings you put on your finger, not how many friends you make. That's how I look at it. So I got to ask you the question because we know how sensitive of a group this can be at times. Let's be all the way up to Mario. Let's not lie to ourselves, okay? So I got to ask you, would a Letang or Malkin trade have a negative impact on the room? And that's a damn good question because of all these guys, like, no more circle jerks, none of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
listen, the country club, like we call it country club, right?
Yeah.
In Toronto, they call it the Muskoka Five, right? So like there's different, but it's a country club. And, I don't think it would have a negative impact on the room. I think you have a lot of new players on this team. Even if the Flower came back, it's not the same group. Maybe it's the same core, but I don't think it'd be a negative impact. And, this topic really burns with me because, we've been talking for years, Jordan. You've been blasting me about Letang, and I'm like, yeah, hang on. Let's keep him around, right? But you know what? Yeah, he's like the ugly stepsister in the room now. He's got to get out. And the one thing that with Letang, it's smoke and mirrors. He eats up a lot of minutes, and he definitely plays top 4 minutes, top 2 minutes. But it's in those minutes, how many mistakes does he make? I go back to this one saying a coach said to me a long time ago, and you talked about losing and winning, and I think this saying will always stay with me is you remember the players you win with, you don't with the players you lose with. And that's something that, this group has to remember that, Sid, again, they've grown up together. They came in when they were 18. They're like brothers, they're like family. And I get it. I've been there. I've been on teams like that. You don't want to, lose that guy. You don't want to see that guy leave to go to another team. But it's all about winning. This is a business. You have fans that have to be put in those seats. You have to, have those wins and those cups. That's your legacy. What's your legacy going to be at the end of the year or at the end of your career? Bringing that Stanley Cup home for the 4th time as a Penguin, or are you going to say, yeah, those 3 years were great when we won? And I think if you ask Sid, if you had him in a room and you said, listen, I can get this guy, we're going to fill some holes, we're going to take a shot at the cup this year, I think he'd be on board with that.
Yeah. I mean, because last I checked, we won a Stanley Cup with Justin Schultz.
Yeah.
Manning our power play and eating up those top minutes. And, that's fine and dandy. You eat up all those top minutes, but I've been saying for how long this guy and his over pinching is just, it drives me at the wall. We've literally lost playoff series. Last game, last play. It's an over pinch by Letang. Puck comes the other way and ends up hitting the twine in our net.
Right.
You know what I mean? How I felt about Stahl back in the day. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I said, get rid of this guy. He's so good. And I'm not saying you were saying that. I was arguing with fans about this all the time, Facebook, whatever. And all I got to sit here and say, when he went to Carolina, he got given top minutes. How good was he? Let's be honest with ourselves. All right. And Letang, you know what? I say this. I'm not trying to be a cold whatever.
Yes, but you are, man. Come on, let's. Right?
But I wanted off of him when the hole in the heart situation popped up.
Right.
I was like, yo, first of all, his value was quite high at that time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He was still young. Now we're getting to a stage where he's in his early 30s. Buddy, the moment his legs go, that's his whole game. He's done.
Right.
The guy, he's been in the league how long? He still can't hit the broadside of a barn on a power play.
100%.
How long have I been? Oh my God! You go from Sergei Gonchar, quarterbacking a power play to this jabroni. Oh, you talk about a drop off, man. And let's be honest, his statistics and where they are, because all I hear about, just playoff assists and da-da-da. Buddy, he's eating off Malkin and Gino. Why are these people? And when Kessel was popping up, why are all these people lying to themselves, man? The context of his points is what matters. And this guy, people act like he's the second coming of Paul Coffey in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I said this before. I said this on Twitter under Josh Yohe's, one of Josh Yohe's tweets. I'll say it again. Mm-hmm. From management down to the players, down to the fan base, you got to start putting the logo over the name on the back of the sweater, unless they're a generational player. Now, I know we've got our issues with Malkin, but this isn't Gino or Sid we're talking about here. This is Chris Letang, man. What are we talking about here? No one's going to sit back when he's done and be like, Chris Letang was arguably the best defender we've ever had. He's not even going to be in that breath, man. Everyone's going to sit back and say he thrived because of who he if Gonchar was young and got to play out with these guys, Gonchar would have blown him out of the water, man.
I tend to agree with you with a lot of those points. I do think, though, on a couple of things. Now going back to coaching, right? It's Sully's system. He wants the D to be active. He wants
And
the D
Bilesma
to
was the
activate.
same way.
And the same way.
Yeah.
And I think if you have a different type of system, different type of coach, one of the things you look at it, and I'm a fan of Torts. I think sometimes he goes offline and whatnot, and some of the benching that he's done recently, but he holds his players accountable. And I think again in Pittsburgh, one of the major reasons why we keep on seeing Letang and Malkin go through these spurts, especially Letang, it's the coaching. He constantly pinches. In the Islander series back in 2019. He was below the dot in the offensive zone majority of the time, and they had 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 2-on-0s. We're talking about Malkin and Letang right now, and how many odd man rushes and how many breakaways have you seen this year just on the power play when we're on the power play when you have those two guys back there? Now, if you're asking me about Letang and you're asking me about Malkin, the one thing I will say about Letang is when he's out there, he gives 110% every shift. He might screw up 5 out of 6 times, but he's working hard, right? He's working hard. He's working hard.
I want you to listen to what you just said. He may screw up 5 or 6 times, but he's working hard. Right. Buddy, if that doesn't tell you to move off the player, I don't know what else will, bro.
I get it. But then we go to 71, right?
I tell you all the time, it looks like the Xbox controller turned off on him and he's just floating, bro.
And he's floating around, right? He's floating around looking for his mom and dad in the stands. Like, what is this, minor hockey? You're looking for mom and dad to tell you you're doing a good job, thumbs up. Suck it up, get out there, pat on the head. Okay, Johnny, you did a good job. Get over it. Like, Gino honestly has to start playing hockey. Forget about, he came into the season out of shape. Yeah. In an interview, he said he couldn't find the gym in Russia. He couldn't do this. He couldn't do that. Well, you know what?
Doesn't he have enough money to have a home gym?
100%.
Am I the only one who thinks that?
Right. I know a lot of hockey players right now during this pandemic that are training at home, are going to the local river that is frozen and playing 4-on-4 hockey or playing 3-on-3 hockey, all this stuff. And Gino can't find a gym? I think that's BS. That's total bullshit. And you know what, Gino? It's time to show up starting tonight.
Yeah. We hope. Guys, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Also, hit the like button down below. We appreciate everyone who's tuned in so far. Nick, do you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I just think tonight's going to be a great night for hockey. I think the Penguins have a big game. We were talking about this off there about Mike Matheson, and the Islanders are going to be coming after him tonight. Last year, he hit Johnny Boychuk from behind. Supposedly, that ended his career. The other night, he hit Barzal from behind. Islanders head coach, said today it's going to be a different game. They're going to come out feisty, so watch out for that. Hockey night in Canada, the crew there are looking for a big game tonight out of Montreal and Toronto. I think we have Vancouver or Calgary and Edmonton tonight as well, I think it is.
Hold on, let me check. We have at 10 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, it's Calgary and Edmonton. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so another barn burner there with some heated rivalries. Big game for the Pens tonight. I'm not sure if Jari has. I haven't looked at to see if Jari's starting tonight, but it's a big game for the Pens.
And right now, it is. Jari is expected to go tonight. And right now the new captain in New Jersey is getting his ass handed to him. They're down 3-1 in the third. And the Rangers are up on the Capitals right now. End of the second, the Rangers are up 3-1 on the Capitals. And as you all know, 3-1 is one of the worst leads you can have in hockey. And like Nick said, there's a lot of good games tonight. You got the Islanders and the Penguins. You got obviously the Leafs and the Canadians. You got what was it? You got dude, what am I brain?
Colorado, Vegas. We got
Colorado,
the outdoor games today too, right?
That's the one I was
right?
Yeah. 3 o'clock, Vegas and Colorado. So that'll be a good one to watch. All right. So we are getting out of here, guys. We'll be back this week. You also got the Sharks and the Blues. That should be decent. So we're coming back this week, guys. We'll keep you updated. just follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. You can see below, our Twitter is where we will let you guys know when we are going live. We'll also probably do that on Instagram as well too. Just follow the outlets. And yeah, so that's it for the first episode of Pens and Pucks. And guys, we will see you this week right back here on the same Pens and Puck channel at the same Pens and Puck time.
Go Pens.